If your plan was to grab a Steam Deck whenever you finally had the cash, you've kind of run out of time, because Valve just announced the single largest price increase ever put on a major piece of gaming hardware, and it's not even close. Oh, what's that? Sorry, you think this price hike won't affect you because you weren't planning on getting a Steam Deck anyway? Yeah, stick with me because I have some really bad news. You see, when the Steam Deck launched, the cheapest one you could buy was $400. Today, the cheapest model is, wait for it, just wait for it, $789. And the high-end model, that jumped $300 overnight with zero warning for a new price of $949. Here's the best part though, this is 4-year-old hardware. Remember when tech used to get cheaper the longer it's been out? So if Valve, one of the most consumer-friendly companies in gaming, had to make a move like this, it can happen to anyone. Today, I'm going to show you why this actually happened, why you can't just wait it out or hope for a sale, and why things could get even worse before they get better. Because this isn't a story about one company's price hike decision, it's the scary truth about what's happening to the entire gaming industry. You're about to understand the real reason gaming is getting more expensive, and here's the twist. This has almost nothing to do with Valve, and it's only just the beginning. But first, let's actually sit with this for a second, because I think the number is so big that your brain doesn't fully comprehend it at first. This Steam Deck came out in February of 2022. That was 4 years ago, and in the time since, it didn't get a faster chip, it didn't get faster memory, it didn't get some massive redesign. It is functionally the same machine Valve has been shipping this entire time, and that machine just got more expensive overnight, and not a little more expensive, $300 more expensive on the top model. So there's probably somebody out there that woke up today and they were like looking forward to getting a Steam Deck, and now all of a sudden it is significantly more expensive. They don't have a press tour, there's no we've been listening to feedback, there was no warning like Nintendo did where they're like, oh, in a couple of months the price is going to go up. You went to bed, the 1TB OLED was $649 and you woke up and it was $949. I can't believe the price that I'm saying out loud right now. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a while, then you know the drill by now. A company raises a price, they put out a statement, and the statement is usually 3 sentences of pure corporate bullshit, right? They go with market conditions or the current economic landscape, words that are technically English but mean absolutely nothing to anybody, because of course they cite market conditions, but then when market conditions improve, we never actually see the prices come back down. They keep it vague intentionally so that way they can screw over the consumer moving forward. And this is the first thing that actually surprised me about this whole story, and we're gonna come back to it later in a big way, but Valve didn't do that. They didn't go with the vague corporate bullshit language. So I need to cover that, we'll get there, but first I need to do the thing that I always do, which is back up and make sure that I am not lying to you, because there's a version of this video where I scream the Steam Deck almost doubled in price and have a 20-minute crash out, and then a smart ass person in the comments is gonna go well actually. So let me be precise here, okay, because honestly the precise version of this whole thing is somehow like worse, it feels like. So when I say that the cheapest Steam Deck went from $400 at launch to $789 today, I'm comparing two slightly different machines. The $400 Steam Deck was the original LCD model, the entry-level model, the base model, the easiest one to get your hands on. That was your easiest way in. That was just, oh, I want to try this PC handheld gaming thing without remortgaging my home. But here's the thing, Valve quietly discontinued the LCD line back in December of 2025 because they obviously saw where the industry was going. So that model is gone. It doesn't exist in the store anymore. You can't buy it, which means the cheapest door into Steam Deck ownership today is the 512 gigabyte OLED model, and that's the one that went from $549 to $789. that's a $240 jump, around 44% in a single day. But real quick, I just want to thank everybody who's been liking the videos lately and using the new height feature. It's really been helping out the channel a ton. I know I've been gone for the last like 3 weeks. I was on vacation, but I am back and I appreciate the patience. Thank you to all of you who waited and are still sticking around. If you made it this far into the video, consider dropping a thumbs up on it. It really does help out the channel a ton. It helps me beat the YouTube algorithm. But anyway, back to the video. So no, it's not literally the same model doubled in price, but follow the actual experience of a normal human being here. If you are a person standing outside the handheld PC space in 2022 going, okay, what's the cheapest way in? The answer was $400. If you're that same person today asking that same exact question, the answer is $789. The entry price to even own one of these roughly doubled. The floor kind of came up and met the ceiling here, and that is the part that breaks the rules of how technology is kind of supposed to work. I mean, everything you have ever bought that has a chip in it gets cheaper over time, or at least that's how it used to be, right? Your phone, your TV, your laptop, the longer a thing or a product exists on the market, the cheaper it gets, because the parts get cheaper and the factories get better at making it. There's economies of scale. That's kind of like the deal. That's been like the most reliable law of consumer electronics, at least over the course of my lifetime. But the Steam Deck just ran that law in reverse, and it's not the first product we've seen do that, considering all the other price increases we've seen over the last couple of months. The Steam Deck is a 4-year-old product that got more expensive, and once you understand why, and I mean like really understand it, you stop laughing at the Steam Deck and you start getting a little nervous about everything else you were planning to buy. Okay, so here's where I have to give Valve something, and it's gonna feel weird because I'm about to spend the next chunk of this video telling you their next products might be in serious trouble, but when Valve announced this, they didn't hide. Their statement literally said Steam Deck OLED is back in stock with a price increase for both models due to rising memory and storage costs. New prices: Steam Deck OLED 512 gigabyte now $789 US, and Steam Deck OLED 1 terabyte now $949. And they said specifically Steam Deck itself hasn't changed. This isn't like some big revision or remodel or something like that. These new prices reflect the current state of component costs and other global logistical challenges across the industry as a whole. Component costs. They said the actual reason. They pointed at the thing that's actually happening. Now compare that to everyone else who has raised a price in the last year or so. When Sony increased the price of the PS5 last month, they said with continued pressures in the global economic landscape. A few weeks ago, when Nintendo announced the Switch 2 was going to get a price increase, they said it was because of changes in market conditions. And by the way, I think they announced this while I was on vacation, so that way I wouldn't make a scathing video ripping them apart. But anyway, when you look at what Microsoft said when they hiked the price of the Xbox last year, they said due to changes in the macroeconomic environment. 3 different companies, 3 different bits of bullshit, all carefully designed to tell you absolutely nothing and make you feel like complaining is pointless because, hey, it's just the economy. What are you gonna do? Oh, it's just the market of the world. Valve said it's the parts. The parts cost more, and I'm not saying that to give them a gold star here, okay? I'm saying it because that one honest sentence is kind of the thread that you can pull to unravel this entire thing, because the second you ask, well, okay, which parts and why do they cost more, you find the real story here. The real story is not about gaming at all. The real story is about the thing that's eating the entire technology industry from the inside right now. know. It feels like everything tech hardware related is imploding right now, and the reason for this isn't a Valve problem or a Nintendo problem or a Sony problem, but it is the reason that there is no cheaper door. There's no competitor to switch to. There's no sale that you can wait for. Let me show you what is actually going on here. So the part that got more expensive, the component Valve is pointing at, is memory, specifically the kind of memory chips called DRAM and NAND. That is the RAM and the storage inside your devices. It's in the Steam Deck, it's in your console, it's in your phone, it's in basically every piece of electronics you own. Is probably in your toaster at this point. Okay, I don't know why we need Bluetooth coffee machines, okay, but here we are, we're paying the price for it. But anyway, right now there is a global shortage of these memory chips, and it's kind of like the worst one that's ever happened. Prices on these chips have been climbing all year, and when the raw memory gets more expensive, every single device that needs memory also gets more expensive to build, which means it gets more expensive to buy because these companies just pass that cost on to the consumer. So here's the real question that actually matters: why is there a shortage? It's not a factory fire. There wasn't some factory somewhere across the world that exploded. Okay, it's not a war cutting off the supply of these chips. It's not even people buying too many video gaming devices. Okay, the answer is, of course, everyone's favorite two-letter word: AI. Yeah, the reason your gaming handheld costs more has almost nothing to do with gaming and almost everything to do with artificial intelligence, because the companies building these gigantic AI data centers, the ones training the chatbots and the image generators and all of that, these data centers run on almost the exact same chips that go in your devices. And it's absolutely critical that they get these chips, by the way, because otherwise, how is your mom gonna watch those AI cat videos at 2 in the morning where they're wearing a little sombrero playing a guitar and they send it to you saying, hey, is this real? And it's like, mom, in the very next frame the cat takes a shot of whiskey. Like, I wish it was real. That's hard as hell, but no. But anyway, these AI data centers need these chips in volumes that are honestly hard to even imagine. Let me give you a number that absolutely blew my mind when I was researching this. Okay, so do you guys know OpenAI, the company that does ChatGPT, right? Well, OpenAI is building a data center called Stargate, because of course they are. And by some reports, Stargate alone could end up consuming up to around 40% of the entire world's DRAM production. 40% for one project. They've reportedly signed deals with Samsung and SK Hynix, the biggest memory makers on the planet, for something like 900,000 wafers a month at peak. Let's just sit with that for a second. Almost half of all the memory chips the whole world can produce potentially funneled towards one company's AI ambitions. And it's ChatGPT. They're not even the best one anymore. Everyone's using Claude now. And not to mention, OpenAI is not the only one doing this. Google is doing it. Microsoft is doing it. Amazon is doing it. Meta is doing it. Every tech giant on earth is in a full-blown arms race to build the biggest AI infrastructure, and they are all reaching into the same finite pile of memory chips. So picture it like this, okay? There's one bakery in town, and they make a fixed number of muffins every single day. For years, those muffins went to grocery stores and to restaurants and to fat people like me who eats a muffin every morning for breakfast. I don't anymore, but in high school I did, and it showed. And then imagine a handful of billionaires shows up and says, we'll take all of your muffins and we will pay whatever you want. What happens to the price of muffins for everyone else? It goes up, of course. And it doesn't matter how badly you want muffins or how loyal of a customer you've been. They're not going to sell you a muffin for $4 when somebody else is paying $50 for it. And there's not any other bakery in the town. The supply itself is being vacuumed up before it ever even reaches you. That's the gaming industry right now. Contracts are being signed for chips that aren't even in production yet. And that's why I keep telling you in this video that there's no escaping this one, because this isn't a company deciding to be greedy that you can punish by buying one of their competitors. The competitor is standing in the same line as them, fighting for the same chips and losing to the same data centers. The shortage isn't in the gaming aisle, it's at the source, and it gets better or worse, I guess, depending on how you feel about your wallet right now. But both Samsung and SK Hynix have warned that this shortage could stretch into 2027 and beyond. So this is not like a, okay, we'll just wait a few months and it'll blow over type of situation. No, this is a new normal for a while. That's point one of why you can't just wait it out. But here's point two, because I know what some of you are thinking, right? I thought it too. Okay, fine. The Steam Deck is now a luxury PC handheld. It was always kind of like a niche thing. I'll just buy a normal console instead. Yeah, about that. The Switch 2 already announced a price increase from $449 to $499 effective September 1st in the United States. And the price of the PlayStation already went up, and the price of the Xbox already went up. It's the same root cause every time. The memory, the chips, the AI crunch. There's no cheaper alternative here. Every door has the same toll booth in front of it now, and the toll just gets higher and higher every single month, it feels like. And I want to be careful here, because I know you didn't click on a Steam Deck video to hear me read you a list of console prices on the market, okay? So I'm not going to dwell on it here, even though I really want to rip into the Switch 2. I just really need you to understand the current landscape, okay? This isn't one expensive handheld having a bad week. This is a wall that we ran into, and every direction that you turn, you hit the same wall, because it's all the same supply, all the same shortage, all the same reason, which is exactly why the Steam Deck is the perfect thing that we have to talk about today. Because of all of these devices, the Steam Deck was supposed to be the value one. It was supposed to be the budget answer. When somebody said PC gaming has gotten too expensive, the Steam Deck was the thing that you could point to and say, no, look, you know, for $400 you can get in and have access to your entire Steam library. For $400, I mean, you can't get a gaming PC for $400 or a gaming laptop or anything. At this point, you can't even get a console for that, right? It was the affordable pick, especially like I said, because you got your Steam library on it, and games over on the Steam marketplace are super cheap if you time it right. You could get Hogwarts Legacy for like 40 cents or something. Okay, I'm being a little hyperbolic, but like not really, right? Like if you waited for the Steam summer sale, you could get like 30 games for $1. It was the value king. And now at $789, the Steam Deck isn't even the value option in its own category. There are Windows handhelds available, right? Like the Xbox ROG Ally and machines like it. Those are sitting around $600. The Steam Deck used to undercut everything, but now it's the expensive one in the room. The value king got dethroned in its own kingdom. But how much you want to bet Xbox is going to try to raise the price of the ROG Ally now? I'm calling it now. Asha, don't do it to us, okay? But I can see him doing it. They're going to look at the Switch 2 raising the price. They're going to look at the Steam Deck raising the price, and they're going to say, well, you know, market conditions. You know what I mean? It's going to be market conditions on our end. Anyway, let me just say the quiet part out loud here, okay? If you were on the fence about a Steam Deck, I think the honest math now is kind of brutal. Your two options are pay nearly $1,000 for 4-year-old handheld hardware, or you just don't get one. And honestly, I don't think it's worth it anymore. Not at this price. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you to spend $800 on a 2022 device because it used to be a good deal. It was a good deal, past tense. Now buying one is simply a scam. So you either get scammed or you don't get one. Those are the two new options, and honestly, that sucks. But here's the thing that should actually keep you up at night about this story, okay? It's not about this Steam Deck that's already out. It's the stuff that hasn't launched yet. So Valve has two big things on the way. They've got the Steam Machine, which is basically a living room console style PC, and they've got the Steam Frame, which is their VR headset. This is new hardware, the next generation of what they're trying to do here, and both of them just got hit by the exact same shortage. So let me walk you through this the way it actually unfolded, because the layers kind of matter here. Okay, layer one, the timeline for the Steam Machine and the Steam Frame started slipping. These products were on the radar, and then the dates started getting soft. And then there's layer two, and this is the part that should make you nervous. Valve themselves said in their own words that they have to revisit their exact shipping schedule and pricing, especially around the Steam Machine and Steam Frame. That's not speculation, by the way. The company literally said out loud that the price you're eventually going to see is up in the air, and the reason is the same memory crunch we've been talking about this entire video. Layer three, Valve, for all the goodwill that they've earned, does not have the muscle to win this fight. Think about who's competing for these chips, okay? Even if we just look at the gaming scene, just the gaming scene alone, we've got Sony and we've got Microsoft. These are companies that move tens of millions of consoles and have enormous purchasing power. They can lock in supply, sign the big contracts, and throw their weight around. And look, Valve is not a small company, but they are comparatively small in the hardware space, right? It's like, sure, they've got this Steam Deck, but that's only been out for a couple of years. PlayStation and Sony, they can look back and say, okay, this is how many PS2s we sold, PS3s we sold, PS4s we sold, PS5s we sold. Xbox can do the same thing with the 360 and the Xbox One, and so on and so forth. So they kind of have an idea as to how many consoles that they are projected to sell if they announce new hardware. So they can sign those big contracts in advance, right? And so when the memory is scarce and the giants are hoarding it, Valve is not the first in line. They're a smaller buyer in a market where size is the only thing that even gets you a seat at the table. And again, that's just their gaming competitors. We didn't even talk about Amazon and Meta and every other gigantic tech company that is looking to buy these chips as well, right? And then the fourth layer here is that this storm is not passing anytime soon. I don't mean to repeat myself, but remember what I said earlier, the shortage is forecast into 2027 and beyond. So these unreleased products aren't waiting for a brief rough patch to clear, they're launching into the teeth of this problem. Now, in fairness, and I want to do this honestly because this is the part where I could easily oversell it, okay? Valve has since told outlets like The Verge that the Steam Machine, the Steam Frame, and the new controller are still all on track to ship in 2026. So officially they are coming. Officially they are not canceled. But here's what I think, okay? And I want to be crystal clear that this part is my opinion and my prediction. This is not a reported fact, but Valve saying we'll ship it and them saying we'll ship it at a price anyone actually wants to pay are two very different promises. And right now, Valve has only made the first promise, because think about what we just learned, right? A finished shipping 4-year-old product, a product whose costs they understand completely, whose supply chain they've had years to optimize. That product still jumped around 50% in price. If that's what happens to the device they know best, what do you think happens to a brand new machine they're trying to price and ship right now into the worst memory shortage in years or maybe ever, with no purchasing leverage to protect themselves? I'll tell you what I think, okay? And this might hurt to hear, but I think the Steam Machine could be dead on arrival before anyone even gets to play with it. And I hope that I'm wrong, but I'm not making this prediction because I think the hardware is going to be bad. I think it's going to be dead on arrival because the price will have to be something that makes you absolutely cringe. And the brutally honest truth is that the Steam Deck is already living that reality. We don't have to predict what an unaffordable Valve product looks like. We're literally staring at one right now. So let's zoom all the way back out, because I don't think that this video was ever really about a handheld. When the Steam Deck came out, it represented an idea. The idea was bring your Steam library on the go at a reasonable price point. You don't need a $2,000 PC, a whole desk setup, and a degree in computer building. $400, here's a little machine machine, you go play whatever you want, wherever you want. At the time, it was the most affordable, friendly, generous version of portable PC gaming. At that price point, it was supposed to be the on-ramp. You get your foot in the door, but now the on-ramp is priced like the highway, or like you're flying first class around the world, right? That's what actually happened. It's not one device that got expensive. It was that one of the cheapest, friendliest, almost anyone can play corner of gaming got dragged up into luxury territory along with everything else. And the reason it happened isn't greed you can boycott or a company that you can punish. It's a global shortage being driven by an AI boom that does not care even a little bit about whether a teenager can afford a handheld this Christmas. So the thing I keep coming back to is what I said at the very beginning of this video. If Valve, one of the most consumer friendly companies in this entire industry, had to make a move this drastic, it can happen to anyone. There is no company that is immune to this. There is no door that is still cheap here. And the people actually setting the price of these chips inside your future consoles aren't even in the gaming industry at all. They're in data centers and they're just getting started. So can anyone afford modern gaming as a hobby anymore? A year ago, I would have said, sure, absolutely, here's how. But today, I'm looking at a $789 version of that same exact answer. The hardware hasn't changed at all, and I genuinely don't have a good answer for you. And that, more than any single price tag or price hike, is the part that should worry all of us. So my recommendation is, if you've got a backlog, I would say start working on that backlog, because who knows how long this is going to go on for, and who knows how high these prices are going to go. Dust off that old 360, fingers crossed we don't have a red ring, okay? Or pick any console that you want to revisit, because we've got like 30 years of fantastic games, a majority of which you probably haven't played, myself included. But guys, if you made it to the end of this video, consider dropping a thumbs up on it. It really does help out the channel a ton. And you might think you're subscribed because you've seen a ton of my videos, but you're actually not. Double check down below.